Thanks, Melissa. Thanks for introducing us this morning. My name is Jo Latimore. I am the director of MiCorps based at Michigan State University, and we're thrilled to have you all here and to welcome you to the MiCorps conference. This is the traditional way that we wrap up the monitoring season every year for MiCorps. And so we're going to spend a little time because there has been some changes with MiCorps and some return to normal for some of our other programs. So we want to just take a little time this morning to kind of go through what's up, who's doing what, who to contact for different topics involved with MiCorps, and give you an overall update on our program. And we're also going to have a few minutes for questions that Melissa will help us moderate. So let's dive in. First of all, I mentioned my name's Jo Latimore. I've been involved with the MiCorps program for a long time, about 16, 17 years now. And last year, I took over the role of director of the program. And so it's exciting to be in this role and to work with a lot of familiar faces and teammates as well. I wanted to mention all of our partners for the MiCorps program. MiCorps is a little bit unique, or rare at least, among volunteer lake and stream monitoring programs nationwide because we are hosted and sponsored by the state agency. Tamara's organization, the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, sponsors the MiCorps program, which is an excellent relationship for us to have. That gives us a direct connection to state agencies that are using MiCorps data, that are interested in supporting it, that provide technical support for all of the work that we do. And so we don't have to, like many volunteer programs around the state, we don't necessarily have to convince our state agencies in our state that this is an important program. They're already invested in us. They're already at the table. So it's really great to have that kind of a setup for Michigan's programs. Last year, we set up a new contract for the next 5 years of MiCorps, and Michigan State University holds that contract. And so we continue to be a strong partner in the MiCorps program, providing staffing and even a lot of the behind the scenes work. We were able to bring on in the last year support at MSU from Dr. Erin Bunting and her team, particularly including Christian Matsoukas, who have been working really hard to update the MiCorps website, enrollment processes, database, and that kind of thing. And there's going to be some more changes coming in the future, which I'll touch on in a moment. We also have other long-term partners involved, including the Huron River Watershed Council through Dr. Paul Steen, who we'll hear from in a moment, and our partnership with Michigan Lakes and Streams Association, who have a decades-long history in supporting volunteer lake monitoring in Michigan. So this is a tried and true partnership that's been behind the scenes and out front for the MiCorps program for many, many years. So it's exciting to be able to continue to work with all of those folks through the years. Many of you know we went through a funding gap with the MiCorps program. In 2020, we were unable to offer the MiCorps program as we were used to. And that was a difficult year, although in retrospect, if we had to take a year off, 2020 was probably the best year to take off with all the other challenges that we faced in 2020. So we're very pleased to inform you all that funding is secure through the 2025 monitoring season. We have a new 5-year contract with the state of Michigan to keep this program moving forward. So that's good news for all of us. But it also means for us, since we had to experience that funding gap, to remember to keep our eye on that and make sure that we're telling the story of MiCorps and how important it is for the state of Michigan to continue to support this program. So whenever we have an opportunity to share stories about MiCorps, we do that, and we hope that you will be motivated to do so as well. I mentioned our website and our database. Especially our lake monitoring volunteers have noticed significant changes in our enrollment process, our sign-up process, how you pay for participation in the program. That is all steps towards moving to an entirely refreshed website and database for MiCorps that will have, we're excited about all the improvements that we'll see. We're kind of in a mode where we're just doing what we have to do to keep things moving forward now, but in the next year or so, we'll be spending a lot of time adding more tools to our website, making it more user-friendly, giving new options for people to enter their data, to look at data, to find the documents they need. And so, we will definitely be interested in all of your user feedback on that and how we can make this a more useful tool, because the websites look the same for quite a long time. And we've got some exciting ideas behind ways that we're going to be able to improve it in the future. So obviously, we're always interested in your feedback and your commentary and questions. So we have our website where you can find a lot of information about the program, including a link to join our email listserv. So if you visit the website, you can find that information if you want to get occasional emails from us. We won't spam you. We don't send a lot of stuff out, but it's a good place to keep up on what's going on. You can email us directly at MiCorps@msu.edu. Several of us monitor that email account and will respond to you in a timely fashion. We've also branched into social media for the first time in this recent year. So you can find us on Twitter at MiCorpsMI or on Facebook at MiCorps. So there's lots of ways to reach us if you need to reach us. I'll also mention on our website, there is a contact page where you can find email addresses and phone numbers for each of the individual team members if you need to reach any of us directly. So that's going to wrap up my part, and I'm going to hand it off to my MSU Extension colleague, Erick Elgin, to keep things going.
Thank you, Joe, and good morning, everybody. I've been a part of the Cooperative Lakes Monitoring Program since I have pretty much moved to Michigan. I'm originally from Minnesota, and when I got my position as a water resources educator and aquatic ecologist here at MSU Extension, I started helping out with the exotic aquatic plant watch. Some of my expertise lies in aquatic plants, so that was fitting. As I was doing that, I started to help out with other parameters and started helping with training. And now I'm in a new position. So I'm one of those people who I'm familiar, but in a new position, and that is as the Lake Program Manager. And so I'm helping with all aspects of the Cooperative Lakes Monitoring Program, to those database and website changes that Joe was mentioning, to then helping everybody get enrolled, understanding our data, and also answering questions about lake monitoring, lake ecology, aquatic plants, and all those sorts of things. Next slide, please, Joe. Just a little bit about my background. So I've been in Michigan for around 6 years and with the CLMP for around 5 years. I have spent a long time personally, but then also professionally on lakes. I started my career really interested in restoration. So I spent a lot of time up in the upper left there, putting in natural shorelines around the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Minnesota, also putting in other native habitats like prairies and forested floodplains and all these sorts of things. And that's kind of woven in through all of the work that I've done even today. I'm part of the Michigan Natural Shoreline Partnership, for example. I have done a lot of things with aquatic plants, specifically shallow lakes, kind of kicked it off. Shallow lakes are awesome because they have a lot of aquatic plants. They have it all across the basin. And so I've done a lot of surveys with that. You can see me snorkeling there in the bottom left. I've had the opportunity to work on the Asian carp invasion to the Great Lakes. And so that upper center picture is of a big head carp. So one of the species that we overarchingly call Asian carp there. And then I've also spent some time up in Canada, again, working on lakes, where I did things up in the mountains there. You can see in the top right, looking at food webs and doing teaching classes up there. And then also looking at food webs and how they impact our lake ecosystems for my master's. So a lot of different things regarding lakes. Next slide, please. The CLMP, these are all familiar faces. We're going to talk a little bit more in detail, each one of us. But I just want to say this is a team effort. We all do little different things. Jean Roth's the mainstay, doing lots of different things and lots of great information that she holds. If you have questions regarding equipment and supplies and just who to talk to within the CLMP program, Jean is a great resource. Tamara is going to be talking here in a moment, and she's newer to our program, and she's great with our EGLE connection. Paul Steen, he was leading the CLMP program for years, and he's still a big part of this as the data guru side, which is a fun title. So when all that data comes in, it needs to be looked at, it needs to be summarized, and all those different things. We'll be talking about that later today. Paul is a big part of that. Mike Gallagher and Melissa, they're from MLSA, the Michigan Lakes and Streams Association. They play pivotal parts in our organization and what we do moving forward. Mike is a great on that, and Melissa also helps with the marketing side of things for the CLMP, and then Joe as the director, of course, helping with all aspects as well. I don't have it here, but yes, so there is actually, just keep it on this one, on that slide, Joe, the next one. Joe mentioned it, and I should have put one slide up here too. All of our contacts are on this website. If you click the About and go to Contacts, you'll see all of our information listed there. And then also it'll list, if you're looking for a specific question, we kind of tell you what is the, if you have a question about equipment, you talk to Jean. If you have a question about enrollment, you might talk to Joe or I. So we kind of have that listed there to help out. Anyway, so thinking about 2022, enrollment is open. We started enrollment for 2022 at the beginning of November, which is wonderful because it'll now be open for months like we normally are. Last year was a very crunched time as we were new in our contract and creating a new online enrollment system. That system is continuing on, and now it's open for months. All parameters are available for 2022. So if you can think back to your 2021 enrollment, if you have enrolled, we didn't have, for example, aquatic plant mapping. That is now going to be available for 2022. And I just wanted to note what's nice. So if you're a returning volunteer, you still need to enroll your lake, but you also need to sign our waiver, the MLSA volunteer waiver. So you need to do that, and then you can enroll your lake. If you're a new person or considering on becoming a CLMP volunteer, you'll have to create an account and then enroll the lake you wish to survey. Next slide. So other 2022 updates, the side-by-sides I'll say are back, will probably be back with our 1 year hiatus due to funding, and then also due to the COVID pandemic. We have not done side-by-sides for a couple of years. We will hopefully be bringing those back. We can't predict the future, but hopefully things are good and we can all meet safely outside. So that'll be wonderful. It's nice to get out on the water with all of you. We have our in-person training, which is scheduled for May 6th at the MLSA conference in Crystal Mountain. So if you want to be trained in person, we have that May 6th training. We are also going to have a virtual training option, and we don't have the details on that, but just know a full training will be available virtually. So if you're far away or can't make it to the in-person, you will be covered. New for our parameters, we no longer require a SecuDisc, signing up for SecuDisc to do the exotic aquatic plant watch. And so if you may not be on a lake for very long, but you still want to do something, the exotic aquatic plant watch might be a good parameter for you. Also, what we did was expanded those out. So we have deadlines for most of our parameters for sign up, that is, because we need the data collected in a certain time period. Well, for the exotic aquatic plant watch and Score the Shore, those don't really have a deadline. And so we have opened that up for the entire year. So if you have become a volunteer and you say, wow, you know what, I actually do want to do some invasive species monitoring, you can sign up for the plant watch in July, for example. And I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It is my turn to talk about the stream programs. My name is Paul Steen. I work with the Huron River Watershed Council. I've been doing this for a number of years. It's a picture here of young Paul, training a bunch of program leaders on the Shiawassee River. And that's what I do in the program. I get to lead trainings for the stream programs, and I do a lot of technical question answering for those groups. I also do some grant administration. So happy to continue my work on the stream program. So right now I'm here to talk about how things have changed and been updated. And we're going to start with the stream cleanups. So Joe, if you could go to the next slide. So the stream cleanup grants is that is a program that has existed for many years, probably about 20 years, but has always been a program that's been held to the side. This year we officially brought it as a part of MiCorps, along with the stream monitoring and the lake monitoring. It's kind of like the third pillar, the third major aspect of MiCorps. So just to say a little bit about these cleanup grants, we have $25,000 a year available that groups apply for. You can see that we had 7 recipients in 2021. They have all gotten grants to do these cleanups, ranging from about $750 to $4,500. $5,000 is the max for any particular organization. Now, if you were to do some really quick math and add all that up, you'll see we didn't spend $25,000 last year on cleanup grants. We just didn't have enough applicants. So if this is something that you feel that your group could get a lot of benefit of, definitely come January, check this the request for proposals and see if this would be a program that would work for you. There's some caveats to that. The big one is based on the funding source of this. There's a requirement that you have to be a municipality to get this grant. So a township, a city, county, lots of conservation districts go for this money and get it. If you're a watershed council, you're not one of those things, then you can go to your municipality and create a partnership with them and work with them so that your area can still benefit from the funding. It's important to note that cleanup grants are for human-based trash, anthropogenic trash, so tires, bikes, refrigerators, plastic, that type of thing. We're not paying for woody debris removal. That's very hard-coded into the grant. Another thing is that this doesn't pay staffing, and what this grant will do is pay for your equipment that you'll need to accomplish the cleanup. So Joe, go ahead to the next slide. So what's new besides just being incorporated more cleanly into the MiCorps program itself? We worked to make this an easier proposal. It has an easier reimbursement than in the past. Recognizing that it's not a lot of money, we wanted to reduce as much administration time as possible. So if you get one of these grants and are trying to get the reimbursement for it, all you have to do is fill out a project sheet a lot like this and turn in your financial sheet, and you'll be good. So we're not going to make you write long reports to get your $2,000. So that is the intention of this program: quick and easy projects that you can do with your partners, and we'll help you advertise your successes. So we're going to make sure these fact sheets go out publicly, so people with EGLE and DNR and other interested parties know what you have been up to. All right, so we'll go to the next slide. So there's so that's the cleanup grants. We also have stream monitoring. Stream monitoring is also a grant-based program. It's for local groups like watershed councils or conservation districts, usually who gets the money, to develop monitoring for both macroinvertebrates and habitats. It's volunteer based. So while there'll be a central organization like a watershed council that gets the grant, you will be training and working with volunteers to get all of that work done. So what's new with the stream monitoring? We have higher money caps for each grant type. All the details are in the fine print below. You can screenshot it or check this recording out later to see all of that. But basically, more money given for each particular grant. And we have a new type of grant, which is the maintenance grant, which I'll talk about in just a minute. Next slide, please. So in 2021, we had 4 new organizations join the MiCorps network. Berrien County Conservation District got the bigger implementation grant. So this conservation district is now doing their first sampling out in Berrien County on Hickory Creek. So they wrote their quality assurance plan, they recruited their volunteers, they trained their volunteers, and then October they held that first sampling. And now they're one of the team, part of this network. One of the great things about the STREAM program is that even after grants end, groups continue on, and we get a chance to interact with each other at these conferences and share our successes and our failures. So it's a nice group of people to get involved with. We also have 3 groups that got startup grants: Detroit Zoological Society, Olivet College, which is partnering with Eaton County Conservation District, and the Grand Valley Metro Council, Lower Grand River. Long name, I think they go by EGLE for short in their acronym. So these are 3 groups that are just starting the process of figuring out how to do the monitoring. They are holding meetings or attending these conferences and trainings, and they're getting ramped up with the goal of getting the bigger implementation grant this coming spring when those are released. All right, next slide, please. And then the maintenance grants, those are a new thing. So this list of organizations here are all groups that in 2021 got these maintenance grants. And what that is somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000, a small grant to just help these organizations stay active. It provides a little bit of staffing money. It provides travel to a conference or staff time to attend this conference. It gets them to the trainings. It keeps them as part of the network, keeps them talking to me, to the other organizations, so we all continue to be able to work together and keep our programs active and healthy. So this is a new grant with the intention of doing all of that, and we want to have a healthy network of organizations that work together. So that's the purpose of this grant. Also meant to be very low admin maintenance because it's such a small amount of money. I think that might be all for me, Joe. Can you check the next slide? Oh, there's one more. For the stream monitoring, another thing that we did that's new is we revamped the identification and scoring scheme that we use for macroinvertebrate monitoring, with the end result of having a system that's easier for staff and volunteers to sort insects into accurate groups. We're also getting more biologically accurate results, where stoneflies and mayflies may have once been considered the same in terms of their sensitivity. We're recognizing the differences. Stoneflies are the absolute most pollution intolerant insects, mayflies a little less so. And you can see that, that's just one example, but you can see that throughout the scoring system, just trying to tighten up our ratings and our accuracy to make it more useful for all users. Now, the next step there is to really work with EGLE and other interested users on how are we going to use this data. So once people start using this process, we'll jump into that, really look at results carefully and figure out how it can best be used for a whole variety of purposes. And with that, I think I am done, and I'll turn it over to Tamara to give EGLE's perspective.
Thank you. So in case you missed this morning, my name is Tamara Lipsey, and as Joe mentioned earlier, I am with EGLE, and I've worked there as a biologist for 19 years now. I have a lot of different responsibilities and opportunities during my time here at EGLE. And I've used the MiCorps database on several occasions as part of my work. And that's what I wanted to spend the EGLE update time today, just talking about how EGLE uses that MiCorps data. Next slide, please. So EGLE has several watershed biologists like myself, and we all use the same database that's available to you all through the MiCorps website. We use the database for both stream and lake data, and we use it mostly to answer questions that other people have about lakes and streams. A lot of times it might be lake property owners. It might be realtors who are helping people buy lake or stream and river property. Sometimes consultants who are trying to help solve problems for lake associations. And then other staff here, both biologists who are planning their watershed monitoring, but also some of our permitting staff who use the MiCorps data to help them make informed decisions about a water body before making permitting decisions. Next slide, please. Most recently, I wanted to talk about how I used the Cooperative Lakes Monitoring Program data from 2019 to update Michigan's biannual integrated report. The Clean Water Act requires states and territories and authorized tribes to submit these reports to the US EPA every 2 years regarding the health of the nation's waters, so for all those states. And the report for Michigan includes an inventory of all the lakes and streams and rivers in Michigan and what their respective water quality is. And part of which is a list of water bodies that don't meet water quality standards. Next slide, please. The most recent report used data collected from 2019 and 2020. And because we didn't have a program in 2020, I just used the 2019 data. But 240 lakes participated in 2019 in the CLMP program. And 108 of them collected data for all three of the indices that can be used to determine trophic state or how productive a lake is. Those being Secchi depth, chlorophyll A concentration, and summer total phosphorus data. So those lakes that collected all three of the indices, of the parameters, I use the trophic state indicator, the average, and calculate it for each of the lakes. And that trophic state goes into the database that's used to develop the integrated report. And if the TSI, that trophic state indicator value indicates a lake is hypertrophic, the CLMP data is one piece of information that's used to decide if the lake needs to be put on our non-attainment list. So for the 2022 integrated report that'll be coming out, it'll be submitted later this year. I noted that of the 108 lakes sampled, 36 were classified as oligotrophic, 61 were mesotrophic, 10 were eutrophic, and 1 was hypereutrophic. Next slide, please. So this is just a visual example, a real world example of that I pulled to give you what a database entry would look like. So the top there above, right below the bright blue line, that's what the database entries look like. It's just the year that the update's being made and where the data is coming from, and then the trophic state. And then down below is if you actually went online and looked at the report and found your lake or stream, this is what you would see. And I don't have time to go into the details today, but I just wanted to give you a real world example of how we use the data you collect. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to the volunteer stream monitoring program data and how it's used every year to help make targeted monitoring decisions. So right now in the fall, I'm planning what macroinvertebrate and other water quality surveys I'm going to do for my watershed that I'm in the lead for next summer. So I will always go to the MiCorps database and look for volunteer sites that are in my watershed that I'll be sampling the next year. And I particularly pay attention to the ones that score poor. And then I compare those sites to see if we have here any EGLE macroinvertebrate surveys in those same locations or the same water bodies. And I'll either confirm that we have a similar, we've found something similar in recent years, or if we don't have any data, or if it seems very different from what we have, we'll put that on a possible list of sites that will be sampled the following year. And that's called a targeted monitoring request. But that request goes into a huge pool of requests, so they're not always able to be put into our priorities, depending on funding and other things we have going on. Next slide, please. Another way, I know some biologists will look at the volunteer stream monitoring data is to look at changes in scores over the years. On this graph, the score is on that vertical axis and the dates are along that bottom horizontal axis. And you can see that in from about the spring of 2013 or the fall of 2012 through the fall of 2014, the scores, the overall scores weren't terribly different from each other. And then there was a couple of years where data wasn't collected. And then in the spring of 2017, the score was quite a bit higher than had been seen previously. And then in the fall, quite a bit lower. And this is a site from one of my watersheds that will be sampled in 2022. So I'm hoping that the watershed group will keep providing additional data post 2017, and then I can take a look at that and see if it's something that I should submit as a target monitoring request next fall. Next slide, please. I also wanted to mention that the public can request targeted monitoring. If your group has analyzed data from sites that you have sampled and the results show concern, you are more than welcome to provide that information every fall as part of our targeted monitoring request process. Requests are taken via online from late September through late October every year. If you have questions about this, please reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. If I don't know the answer, I can find a colleague who deals more with our targeted monitoring requests process, and we can get you an answer. Next slide, please. And Joe already touched on this a little bit in his presentation, but I wanted to, in case you weren't able to tune into his talk this morning, I wanted to pass on some information that I recently received regarding future use of CLMP data. EGLE's Surface Water Assessment Section has established a joint funding agreement with the Upper Midwest Water Science Center for this project. It's called Remotely Sensed Water Quality of Michigan Lakes. The project will use satellite images to provide water quality data on Michigan's inland lakes for the period of 2018 through 2022. So the agreement is to spend $200,000 of the EGLE Renew Michigan funds over a 2-year period. And then USGS is also contributing additional $150,000. And both the water quality monitoring data from EGLE that we collect, the data that's collected from DNR, and then the data that's collected from CLMP between 2018 and 2022 are all going to be used to calibrate and validate predictions of water quality parameters. And some of you might remember this was done some years back, but the remote sensing techniques are always developing and improving. And then following making sure the models are calibrated and validated, we'll be able to use remote sensing to predict Secchi depth or water clarity and chlorophyll A concentrations for all Michigan lakes greater than 20 acres in surface area. And this is just an image from, Joe also presented this from Minnesota's lake browser, kind of giving you an idea of what the information might look like when we get it completed for Michigan. And that is all I have.
All right. I think we have gotten through our presentations, and we do have a question in the Q&A. So I'm going to read that. The question is from Chuck, and he's wondering, what is the title of the list for lakes that are hypereutrophic?
It's called the 303D list, and it's a list of all lakes and streams that aren't meeting water quality standards. So there isn't like a specific one for the lakes in particular, but I can post a link to where you can find that report online.
Okay, that would be helpful. And there was another question that was already answered by Paul. He went ahead and answered that question. It was about the stream grants. So if there are any other questions, now would be a great time to ask them. Otherwise, as we said before, we do have a session later this afternoon for questions. And I guess just in case someone is currently typing one in right now, we will again thank you for joining us today. And I do want to draw attention to the next session. We do have a session coming up here where you will be going to a different link. So that's something to take a look at your conference agenda. So at 11 o'clock, we have our first breakout. So you can choose to go to, I collected lake data. Now, what does it mean? How to interpret CLMP data and reports. Or you can choose to go to MiCorps macroinvertebrate scoring and the tricky diptera, a review. So you'll need to go to your agenda to check out the links for those. We do have a question that came up in the Q&A, and this is from Mary, and she says, when will the CLMP analysis data be available for 2021?
I'll get the first crack, because the reports will be available early next year. And some of the data is already and some of the data is already up on the data exchange.
Ron is concerned about Paul's schedule. And I can tell you that that Paul worked with Erick on Erick's presentation, and he is going to be in the session with Tamara about macroinvertebrates. So we have him taken care of. We're not trying to pull him in two directions at one time. So he should be okay. All right, well, we have about 5 minutes before the next session starts. So we'll give some people time to check out their agenda and go to the session. And we'll see you at the next sessions at 11 o'clock. Anything else for the good of the order? Oh, we have another. Okay, you know what? I'll hold on to some of these. Well, okay, here's a question. Will there be handouts for both sessions sent to everyone? We've got someone answering that question, so that's wonderful. Thank you, Renee. And then Bob says, hypereutrophic and other terms for the non-scientific and new people, what are the definitions? I don't know if we want to take that right now or wait.
I can give like the quickest. And if you're interested in that, Bob, and you are on the lake side of things, you can join our the how to interpret CLMP data and reports coming up next. But quickly, it would be a hypereutrophic lake is a lake that is highly productive, meaning lots of nutrients and lots of algal and plant growth, and a really high classification of that.